All right, so we saw the defense there really building out their timeline, their version of this timeline. We even saw the chart that he had put up on the screen there, and he was really highlighting the communications that we're going to hear about, or that we're about to hear about, presumably. He talked about the text message records we'll see, the cell phone calls we'll see, the pinging of the towers here. And then, of course, he talked about the lack of forensics. He said there was no blood recovered, nothing like that. So it's interesting because a big thing that he did here was he already tried to really undermine these cell phone records and all this technology evidence support that we'll see. So that's something I want to bring up, and I'm going to ask that with our new guest right now, Kelly Hyman, joining us right now. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
What'd you think of that from what you heard right now of the defense's openings?
You know, I thought it was really compelling. You know, when you want to think about what the jury thinks when they're sitting in the box, and they're always thinking, why did someone do this? What is their motive? And basically, he's really laying the groundwork of showing there was no motive. You know, they weren't communicating at all. There was no communication. He didn't, there was no issue about pregnancy, and there's no reason for him to do anything.
Right. All right, I'm going to go out to Latonia Hines now, too, our other guest. Since you were here when we listened to the prosecution's opens and now have heard most of the defenses, compare the two, talk about them head to head. What do you think?
Well, I think the prosecution had to go ahead and talk about the fact that they just have circumstantial evidence. And so that showed their weakness of their case. But at the same time, they talked about all the other evidence that would come in. What the defense did that I thought was a good thing is that they talked about the fact of the timeline and the text messages. That's really all we've got here to draw this all together and the connection. Now, I make the point the prosecution doesn't necessarily have to show motive, but you've got to show the connection. And if you can dispute this whole idea of the text messages, then the defense is doing a good job.
All right, Latonia, thanks. Yeah, Kelly, going off that, I mean, as Latonia said, they didn't really, they don't have anything besides these tech records, meaning these cell phone pings and all of the text messages. And we're going to see that later with all the phone records that they were able to get. But do you think that will be enough here?
Right, that's a very good point, and ultimately it'll be up to the jury to make a determination on whether is that enough information for them or sufficient evidence for them to make their determination.
We will have to see. All right, we got one more part of the opening statements from the defense here. Let's listen to that. All right, so we just saw on the stand the co-worker from the Tilted Kilt, and we were listening to the cross-examination most recently, but also just the direct questioning. Latonia, I'm going to come out to you first. What'd you think of this witness? What was the purpose of him being there and talking about the relationship that he saw between Heather and Sidney, mainly surrounding this restaurant? He talked about how they had sexual affairs on the back patio, and he was aware of that. What'd you make of his testimony?
So it definitely made it seem like it wasn't like a one-time type of thing, that it was an ongoing type of relationship, and there was a connection. And what was important is he talked about the fact that the connection between the discussion about, and here's where you start talking about motive. He talks about the fact that you also have Sidney Moore's wife, Tammy, on a phone call and them discussing Heather. That's really important for the prosecution. It starts tying things together, and it makes it not just happenstance that this would happen and they would be connected to it. It starts showing the complexities of the relationship.
Right, and he went on to say how it wasn't unusual for Sidney to come to the restaurant, even if he didn't necessarily have a job going on there, all that sort of thing. Kelly, let's talk a little bit about the cross here. In the cross-examination, the defense was trying to get at more of these details, asking more of these questions. Was it effective? Did you think that he achieved what he was maybe trying to do by saying that this relationship had kind of ended once the wife found out?
Yeah, I think it was, and I think also what he tried to do was show the fact that Heather was going through a lot of other stuff as well, and that's possibly something happened because of that, and that's why she disappeared, whether it's the family, that she was living in the car, and then also got across that the defendant did not see any type of aggression or any kind of anger towards her to show that as well, and then also brought in the fact about his son, and maybe that's why there's some kind of motive there as well. Be interesting to see how this ultimately plays out.
Right, we will be watching that. We have to take a break. Stay with us on Law and Crime. When we come back, we'll be back live in Sidney Moore's trial.